Today is Saturday, August 20th, 2022. It is also day 194 of Blender, and I'm going to do another text animation with geometry nodes. So I'm going to go to geometry nodes, hide a spreadsheet, click on new for new geometry node system. I'm going to do Shift A and get a string to curves. Wrong thing. Shift A, string to curves node. And I'm going to connect that to the output so I can see it, but I don't see anything yet because I don't have anything in my string yet, which is my text. So I'm going to do something like chemistry. And then I'll do Shift A and get a transform node so that I can make sure that it's standing. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees along the x-axis, which is the red axis. And I'm going to give it some faces because right now it doesn't have anything. It's just curves. So Shift A and get a fill curve node and change that to n-gons. And then I'll do Shift A and get an extrude mesh node, and that's going to give the letter some thickness. So I'm just going to change that to 0.1. And then in the back, I notice that it's hollow and it's not filled in the back. So I'm going to do Shift A and get a join geometry node. And I'm going to put that right before the output, and it's going to connect the extrude mesh automatically, but I want to also connect the fill curve. So it's also filled in the back. Then I'm going to go to string to curves and go on this folder here. And I downloaded this font from thefont.com. It's called Tiles by Randy Ford. And I have it over here in my fonts. And now it's going to look something like this, which is pretty cool. Now I'm going to go to the end. All right, I'm going to do Shift A and get a set material node. And I'm just going to put that in here. I think I'm just going to do, I don't know, let me go to shading and let me go to colors, palette generator, and just get like a palette. I literally don't like any of these. Let me go back and just go to trending color palettes. All right, maybe something like this. So I'll do something like this. So I'll just copy that color, go over here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign just like the colors to random letters. So I'll do Shift A and get an object information node, so I could do this randomly, and Shift A and get a color ramp, so I could actually assign the colors. I'm going to connect this to the base color and the principal BSDF, and then the random into the factor so that the colors are randomly assigned. I'm going to select the actual color, which is the box, and then paste that color in there. And I don't want it to be a linear gradient of the colors. I want it to be either or color. So I'm going to do constant. And then I'm just going to go here and grab another color. So maybe this one. And go here, paste that in there, and do that. And I can't see it yet. Let me just go back to geometry nodes and make sure I selected a material. There we go. So back into shading, and now I'm able to see it. And then let's see, I could do plus and do something like this. Something random. Let me actually go back to how it was. There we go. And let me go and pick another color. So maybe an orange would work also. All right. And then maybe a little bit more red would be good too. All right, I think I'm gonna leave it like that. And now I'm gonna go to layout, and I'm gonna do Shift A, mesh plane, scale by pressing S, and then G to grab, and then X to grab along the x-axis. Move it a little to the right like that, and then I'm going to go into edit mode by pressing on tab, go to edge select, select the back edge, E to extrude, and then Z to extrude on the Z axis, which is Z by the way, and also the blue axis. Go back into object mode by pressing on tab. I'm going to go to modifiers and add a bevel to the backdrop so that it looks like a backdrop. I'm going to apply that, and then I'm going to right click shade smooth. And then I'm going to do S and then X to scale along the X axis. And then I'm going to start with my animation. So in order to get anything moving in geometry nodes, I'm going to have to do Shift A, translate instances, and put that in here. And then you'll see it just moves it, but I want something to control the letters and how they move. So I'll do Shift A, get a empty single arrow, and I'll just grab the Shift A and get a vector math node, and I'm going to just get the distance between the letters and that empty, which I'm going to call controller, and I'm going to just grab it from the outliner over here as I'm in the geometry nodes here and just drag it in here to get the object information node because I'm going to get the distance of the empty, the controller, and the position of each of the letters. And that distance is going to be what determines how far or how they move or how they translate. So you can see that here. But I don't want to, I'm going to go to material preview by the way, real quick. But I don't want them to move like in this axis. I want them to move like up and down. So I'll do Shift A and get a combine XYZ node and put that in there and make sure it's connected to the Y, right? Like that. And then I noticed that the letters, well, the closer the empty or the controller is to a letter, the lower it is, and the farther away from a letter it is, like M, the higher it is, and I want the opposite to happen. So I'll do Shift A and get a color ramp and put that in here and just go to the arrow and flip the color ramp, and now that happens, which is pretty cool. So now if I move the empty, um, that happens, which is nice. So I'm gonna move it right before it starts affecting the letter C, right about there. And then I'm going to do Shift A and get a float curve. And what this is going to do is just going to make the bounciness more smooth. And then I'll do Shift A and get a multiply node. So that would, not a multiply node, a math node, and just change that to multiply to a little bit like maybe 1.2 so that it bounces a little bit higher than that. And then I'm going to go to layout, and for the render, I want a video of 80 frames, and I'm going to pull up my N panel by pressing N, and I'm just going to move the controller or the empty right before it starts affecting the letter C, which was kind of right above here. I had it over there already. And that location, I'm going to just, for me, it's like negative 1.1363 meters. So I'm going to hover over that and I'm going to press I, and that's going to pop up as a location keyframe, which is like a yellow diamond on my timeline. And then by the end of the video, which is keyframe 80, I want the controller to be at the end so that it goes, so that it would like go through all of the letters. So that's kind of like after it stops affecting the letter Y, I'm going to hover over that position, which for me is 8.1321 meters, press I, and that's going to insert that keyframe. And then over here, I'm going to, in the timeline, I'm just going to click, press T, and then linear to so that the video loops. And now if I play it, it just goes through, and that's how it's going to look like in the render. And then the last thing is the backdrop color. So I'm going to go to material properties, new, base color, and just change this to black so I'm able to actually see it. So it's like a contrast. I could change it to another color. That could also work maybe. Oops, that definitely does not work. This works. All right, I'm going to change it to that color, which is, by the way, the hex code is A100EO. All right, and now to align my camera to the view. So in order to do that, I'm going to do Control Alt Numpad 0. If you don't have that, you go to Edit, Preferences, Input, and you make sure Emulate Numpad is on. If it still doesn't work, then just do Shift A because you probably don't have a camera, and just add a camera right over here. So I'm going to do Control Alt Numpad 0. To get out of this view, you press the middle mouse button. To go back into the view, you press on numpad 0. All right, but I'm just going to align my camera to the view, maybe just get a little bit closer. Something like, whoops. All right, I guess this is the closest I'm gonna get. All right, and then I'm going to go to render preview, and this is what it's going to end up looking like. I'm just going to click on the light, make it a sun, change the strength to 3, and then I'm going to do G to grab it, and then Y to grab it on the Y-axis, and then R to rotate, and I'm just going to rotate it so that it faces the backdrop a little bit. And then I'm going to go numpad 0 to kind of view it. It's going to end up looking like that. I'm going to select the backdrop and just do G, Z to bring it up a little bit so it's not, so like the letters are flat. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it like that. And I think that's it pretty much. So now to render, I'm going to go to output properties, go to the output and then folder, and I'm going to assign a folder for these 80 frames to render. I usually just name it by date, so 8/20/22, and accept, and then make sure the file format is PNG, and then just simply go render animation, and then those 80 frames should render as PNG images um, in that folder. And you'll note, like right now, like it's frame 3 and then frame 4 at the top left corner, and you'll know when it's done when it hits frame 80. So we'll wait. Now that all the 80 frames are rendered, I'm just going to X out of here and I'm going to go to the top and go to the plus sign and go to video editing, video editing. If you don't see that, just scroll down and you should be able to see the plus sign. I'm going to move this all the way to the left and then I'm going to add image sequence and I'm going to go to desktop, animations, basically where I have my images. I'm going to select the first one, scroll down, shift select the last one, add image strip. And what Blender is doing is just putting all of the images together like so. And then I'm going to go to output and I'm going to click on the folder and just change the output so that the video renders in this folder within the images. I'm going to change the format to FFmpeg video and under encoding the container MPE MPEG 4 and then the output quality high quality, and then I'm going to render animation, and it's just going to be easy as that, and you'll be able to see the video in a few seconds. Although I think I accidentally moved my camera so that it was like crooked because I feel like it's like the letters are twisted. So this is the final result. Bye.